Hello, welcome. This is a brief tour of the new Backpack CRM, now known as Sage CRM 5.7. Let's take a look around both some user improvements and some system administrative changes as well. Over the next 20 minutes or so, I hope you get a feel for the way the product is improved. First of all, note on the left-hand side, the menu items now, we've got both a combination of new entities and a new way of using the menu, the latter of which we will see more of later. And right now we'll also talk about some of the new entities called documents and quote when looking at an opportunity. Before I get into that stage, you'll also notice that we're taking a look at the calendar item. We've got some differences in the way the calendar entity is managed as well now, including an improved web pickup that allows you to pick up within the context of the screen a cleaner way of getting to records and people and indeed opportunities. Secondarily, you'll also see that now we have a slightly different interface on both dates and times, so the date now pops out directly underneath. We click down, again, it's just a cleaner interface for the end user to work with. If we move ahead to have a look at the opportunities screen, let's take a look at our favorite record of GateCom. And what I'm going to do is actually go across to the opportunities section of the product here. And we'll take a look at an opportunity called Office Consumables Order. Instantly you'll notice there's a change immediately there. We've got two new tabs, Quotes and Orders. This is a brand new feature and quite a rich set of functionality in the product now. If I click on the quotes, take you through a tour of this one. Let's create ourselves, first of all, a new quote. So this is putting together a particular quote. There could be one of many for a company here, and there could be various stages before they go to an order. Let's take a look at one of these now. I shall give it just a general description, Office Consumables, such as this. And then I will go to the next stage now, and you'll see down at the bottom of the screen, building up in front of you, we now have the ability to run what we call a product matrix. It's now within the product possible to build upon product families, individual products within those families, and indeed individual price lists within these families. So, for example, if I choose a particular product family, I might choose something like Office Consumables, which will then automatically bring across the matching products within that family, of which I have two here right now. Let me choose some mini fluorescent bulbs. Based on those two choices, I now have individual units of measure in which this item can be sold. In this case, I've got cases of them, dozens or indeed each. And then depending on what I choose and the quantity to go with that, if I choose 2 dozen of these fluorescent bulbs at a 55p quoted price, I can save that. And up the top, you'll now see entered as a line item on this document, 2 of these bulbs in the unit of measure that we chose. And I can continue to build upon that quote with additional line items such as more from the Office Consumable storage area, and in this time I might indeed choose something like business card files. You see I have different units of measure available in there as well. You can see I can build up quite complex relationships of line items into quotes. Now quotes can be promoted to orders, and that would automatically fill up the detail on the opportunity. But perhaps it's more reasonable to show you inside the admin section of the product first of all, to show you how indeed these items are put together. So notice the admin side of the product is now changed. Admin is a second set of dropped out menus, and by clicking on that admin menu there, I've now got an additional set of tree structure, if you like, buttons here. Each of these buttons is addressable from a right-hand menu button as before, but we've extended this much further into the product now. You can see depending on what you choose, you have the ability to right-click deeper into the structure. And as you see, as we'll go through, I'll show you a few more of these. If I have a look now at the products as we were referring to earlier, let's go into data management and into the products area. And you see, as I was mentioning based on an earlier quote, we have concepts of products, product families, units of measure, and price lists. Typically, the way is organized, you set up a product configurator to use multiple price lists, multiple units of measure, and multiple order level discounts. Once that's enabled, you can then create families of products, which can be things such as you saw earlier, Office Consumables, and then units of measure that will apply to individual items. So for example, the A11030 is a particular unit of measure for office consumables, and they will be applied back into the product. So our earlier example of a 13mm fluorescent bulb has a product code of that, a product family of consumables, and can be sold in individual units of measure. You can see you can build up quite a complex matrix of items, products within those items, and so on. Let me go back to my CRM, show you a few more things in the user interface side of things. Then I'll go back right to my diary, in fact. You'll notice across the top, if you've been paying attention here, we've got an extra tab up here called the ellipse tab. This gives users the individuality to set their own tabs without referring necessarily to systems administrators. In the C, you have the ability to switch on and off individual tabs. So, as well as having the main security where you define those by groups of users and profiles, you also have the ability for individual users to switch off their own tabs if they wish. Just a nice little extra feature there for individual users. Moving on, let's take a look at the document library area. You'll recall, of course, in the previous product, the ability to hold library items at a company, person, opportunity level, into which documents can be stored, be they emails or Word documents, etc. That concept has now been taken out and further. Library one step further, we now have the concept of both global and local templates, enabling people to have both individual templates for their own use and also use the company's templates for things like mail merges and closing. If we look at something like that in the context of, say, our company record Gatecom, if I choose Gatecom as a record and then go ahead and create myself a new document, I will be first of all taken to the library area where I get to choose either a global or a local template. So you have the ability there to have your own set, which is quite a nice extension of the document library feature. This same approach is also the case when you're running off emails. You are allowed to not only have attachments, but actually attach emails from the document library. Again, just extending the functionality of that feature of the system. Speaking of extending functionality, one of the nicest things I think in the product release now, apart from the configuration, is the ability of taking what we had in marketing, the target list in particular, up here, and extending that out to me as a user. So I'm sure you all recall how target lists actually work. If I was to go back to my diary now, and then look up, say, a company, I will click Find, I'll find a company, and let's say I'm looking for all my companies who are based in London. I can click Find there, it will give me my results. But notice in the top right corner here now, I have the drop down and plus button. I can now do what we call a save search, so I can take the results of that search and save it locally here. The company is called London, in London, and save that. And that's now a search available to me just to click and bring back without even having to rerun the criteria. I can also, in the context of my CRM, take, say, these companies in London, or maybe they are my companies in London, and perform tasks on them straight from here. So send them an email, create a document to them all. So it's the same concept of target list, but it's put in the context of my CRM, which I think is quite a nice feature as well. Okay, let's take a look at more of the administrative changes. I let you into seeing a few of them earlier. Let's go back into the admin section again and notice nested tree structure now, providing a lot more ease of use, I think, around the products, including the right capabilities. There's a number of new features in here. Let's have a look at a couple of them. We have the concept of user templates now, which allows you to create users from a defined template. It's somewhat similar to cloning the user we had before, but it allows you to have a template user without necessarily having a user tied up in being the template. So, for example, here I've set up one particular template called users in Ireland, telesales users, which allows me then to create that like it is a normal user and set all the rules about language notifications, login, info admin rights, etc. But now when I go and create a new user in the Irish office, I simply make a copy based on that template. So it's quite a nice feature there. Saves administrators a lot of time. Let me show you around a couple of the other enhanced customization features of 5.7. I'll take a look at customization area. This of course looks familiar to you. Let's have a look at customizing a particular entity. We'll choose company in this case. You can see across the top with the tabs, we have a couple of different tabs going on here. In particular, the notifications tab is one I wanted to show you. In 5.7, we've taken the concept of notifications and extracted it from the workflow area of the product, and now made notifications available across all the entities of the system. So to give an example of how that might work, let me create you, say, an on-screen notification for the company entity. So what's going on here is we will create some sort of message based on a particular set of rules taking place upon a company entity. Let's imagine, if you will, that you wanted to have the ability of whenever somebody changed the, say, sector definition of a company record, that maybe you as the account manager was notified. So here's an example. So change in sector would be the name of the notification. It would be applied to the company, well, let's see, have we got sector in there? Segment, okay, sector, so company segment. What happens now is the program is evaluating the values that will match segments, and shortly it will come back to me and say, okay, you're allowed now to say when the company segment is equal to a value, say distribution, and any other combination of rules, you can then have an on-screen notification into which you can say things such as this. So the notification would read, warning, as an example. I can spell that correctly. This company has changed its sector to, and then the data field name of company sector. So I suppose you would also have in there your company name, and that's fairly easy to do as well. You just go back and choose company name. So you see what we're going on here is we're having a rule of changing segment, and you're evaluating the company entity whenever it equals it for that to be triggered upon. So it's taking the same concept of escalations, as you can see I've not quite filled everything in, taking the same concept of escalations but now making it available right across all the entities in an easier to use fashion. There are a number of other improvements as well, particularly in layout, as I keep saying, but a number of other improvements in the whole workflow approach, including the way it's organized. I could spend a lot of time going through that. I think the best thing to do is to just give you an idea that they are there and spend some time working through them when you receive your release. One very, very important thing I want to cover right now, though, is the change in offline replication, or CRM solo, as it's known. To do that, I'm going to log out of this version and log in to another live system we've got here, which just gives you a feeling for how this is set up. You log in here, this is our live system, and you'll notice on the top of this particular installation, we've got a new tab called My Solo Client. If I click on that, what it's showing you now is we've redone Solo completely. This replaces the existing solution based on SQL replication. It is now not limited to SQL Server 2000. It will work with Microsoft SQL, Oracle, Sybase, and DB2. It really is quite agnostic in database structure. The database used on the client is a customized version of SQLite. Okay? What happens is you define at this particular client level, when you're logged onto a live system, the sort of data you want made available to your solo client. So it could be, in this case, person or cases or company, and you have the ability to specify exactly what you want to see, and then within each of those, what style of data you would see within it. You have to do that online, and then when you do that, first time you install the solo client, this will download the entire application as a very lightweight application and install it upon your solo client. The SQLite version is a very, very small C library. It implements a self-contained embeddable zero-config engine. So basically you just click on that install client button. The first install will take anything up to 10-15 minutes depending on the line speed, but after that there is no setup or admin needed. A complete database is stored in a single disk file, and it will support databases up to 2 terabytes in size, so even the largest customers should have a problem with this. Extending the existing functionality on the last solo release, the initial client makes sure that even things like notifications and snooze and dismissive changes and so forth are synced up and down to the client and the server, and vice versa. Now that makes sure that everything is done on the client and on the server is kept up to date, and you keep that same rich functionality you would have as a logged on user. I think you can see there's quite a good depth of new user and system admin functionality we've got in the new release. The new Solo is a fantastic product, much more reliable, much easier to install and maintain. The new breakout of the admin into tree and sub-tree structures makes user administration and indeed technical administration much richer. You've got much better web picking. There's a cleaner interface design on both date find and appointment creation stream. And indeed, the entire product configuration tool extends the functionality of the product a great distance, particularly appealing to people who run multiple price lists, multiple currencies, multiple product families. Fantastic new addition to the product. There is an awful lot more contained as well, including new applications and new management of views, new management of field types called Search Select, and indeed the entire web services interface has been opened up a substantial amount, which allows you to access and put and get data to and from the system in all sorts of new ways. I'd encourage you to have a look around the entire product when it's delivered to you. And of course, not surprisingly, we will be running upgrade training very shortly after the product is released. So that's a brief overview of some of the new features. There are a lot more, but I just want to give you a taster for what was there. You're of course welcome to give me any questions via email, david.beard@sage.com. And as I mentioned, full new release training for partners will be forthcoming. So keep your eye on that. And do have a look around the new product. I think you'll find it's an exceptionally good release. Thank you.